Hey guys, I'm Katie and I am doing the Start a Discussion post for scaffolding and language acquisition. And the post asks, after reviewing Chapter 5, to reflect on all of the ways in which adults scaffold with or assist infants and toddlers in acquiring language. So I wanted to start with, specifically in the book, there's a question that says, do people who speak different languages think about and experience the world differently? And I thought this was a good place to start because different places in the world incorporates different cultures. And throughout the chapter, several different researchers have varying opinions on how one's thinking and language affects one another, and specifically one group of researchers suggests that as parents interact with their children, the children learn language and become socialized into a particular set of cultural values and beliefs. So I think at one point in the book it says that all children are born with the possibility of knowing all languages, but it's which languages they're exposed to that they actually learn to develop, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. The book also says that Vygotsky's position on the issue is that he believes that cultural influence, mental processes, and language are dynamic processes that occur simultaneously, so not one and then the other, they're all occurring at once. So constant social interaction with those around us help shape the quality of mental abilities and language at various ages. And this was his belief, and along with this, he also has the zone of proximal development, which is as children pass through Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, scaffolding allows them to develop their language learning and help acquire specific cognitive skills. And specifically, the book defines scaffolding as the temporary support or guidance provided to a child by parents, older siblings, peers, or other adults in the process of solving a problem. So it's the amount of support a parent gives a child to take them from the place of doing something, of not being able to do something, to doing something on their own, how much help the parent needs to give them. In the book, it identifies infants, and then it goes a little bit into toddlers. And with infants, specifically, linguist Noam Chomsky believes that the languages babies acquire depends on the languages they are exposed to on a daily basis. So like I said earlier about them possibly being able to know all languages, and then he continues to say that all languages have similar babbling sounds, but the languages they ultimately developed are directed at this point forward by the child's parents and anyone else they interact with. So if a child makes a certain sound in one language, that's the language of that culture, the parents will celebrate it and acknowledge the babbling sounds that resemble those of their language, and the baby will continue to use those, and any noises or sounds or any babbling that's made that doesn't resemble a sound in their language, then it's not celebrated and it kind of just goes away. And then the post continues to ask, what's universal and how do cultural communities vary in ways in which they facilitate language acquisition in their offspring? And for this, I thought, along with what I was saying before about how some languages support certain sounds, what's universal, though, is that no matter what language it is, no matter what culture it is, the family supports sounds in words that correlate to that of their culture. On page 127 in the book, it touched on how in some cultures It says cross-cultural studies of language development show that the acquisition of certain linguistic elements, such as nouns, verbs, and grammatical structure, may vary. But then it kind of says that they vary culture to culture, but then overall, they all still develop eventually, depending on what's most important in those cultures. So overall, universally, the parents support the children in order to help them develop, but specifically in cultures, and that's kind of what I was leading into, specifically in cultures, some focus on specific parts of speech more than others, and as the child grows older and starts to become a toddler and starts to develop words and sentences, this is when parents start to emphasize which nouns they should be using, which verbs, if they use verbs or adjectives, or what parts of speech are more important in that language and in that culture. So that's kind of an overview. I know my post is already 6 minutes long, but that's kind of an overview of what I took from the chapter. So if you guys have any other thoughts on ways, maybe other examples of how it can be universal versus culturally specific. And then I also thought it would be interesting if anybody who has parents or siblings or anything, or knows children, has any other examples of ways in which they have used scaffolding with their children while they're developing their language as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you.